Welcome to the Winners Find a Way show and podcast with your host, Trent M. Clark, 3-time World Series coach, CEO of Leadershipity, serial entrepreneur, having started 12 companies, coach to the 1%, and an international speaker. This show is going to be your go-to podcast for facing adversity, being inspired, and overcoming obstacles, all from the best in the world, business, sports, and leadership. Hate the crappy ingredients in many beverages and energy drinks? Rebellious Infusions are the go-to functional beverage. They have 5 or fewer plant-based organic ingredients, no sugar, no calories, loaded with antioxidants to boost your immune system, and L-theanine for brain health. Rebellious Infusions are available at drinkrebellious.com. Rethink your drink. For 10% off of your next purchase, use the code 99999.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Winners Find a Way show. I am your host, Trent Clark, CEO of Leadershipity, serial entrepreneur, international speaker, longtime coach in professional baseball, coaching in 3 World Series. And I've got my good friend, a little reprise role with Justin Breen from BrEpic. How are you, Justin?
Good to see you again.
It's awesome to see you. By the way, we're like hat guys. We always got the hat guys. Do you wear the hat all the time?
Yeah, so I'm 100% simplifier. So I basically wear the same shirt and the same hat. This is an Abundance 360 hat. So I'm pretty much wearing this at all times.
Nice. I know we talked a little bit about this on the first show. If you missed the first episode with Justin Breen, you're going to want to go back and check that out because we did talk a little bit about this. And I was reminded of the Nick Saban, everything is simplified, man. He's not wasting any energy on anything that doesn't go towards productivity with that organization, right?
Right.
So super excited because having you come back on the Winners Find a Way show. We talked a lot about last time about your background in journalism, and man, you just dropped some serious nuggets on us last time. So it was pretty awesome. And I want to talk a little bit about moving to a couple things, which is one, you've been working hard behind the scenes here on a new release on BrEpic, and I want to talk about that. I want to talk about some of the elite performers, both coaches and how that productivity comes up in elite performers and how we get there. And then, of course, all good things that come around with it, you find that it's rare air at that top and someone wants to be in that top. And I want to talk about what those probably 2 or 3 things that just have to happen for someone to get there. And it may not be the go-tos, right? Like everyone, hey, work hard. Oh yeah, that's good. That's a strong fundamental, right? And I don't want to discount it, right? I think it's important, but we're going to talk a little bit about that. So first, let's start with, why don't you tell us the story of BrEpic? You moved from a journalist, longtime journalist, into BrEpic, owning your own company. Were you an independent journalist or were you contracted onto a big group?
Yeah, so thanks. It's good to be here again. I was a journalist for 20 years and created my entire business model based on how PR firms annoyed me for 20 years. And I had every journalism job imaginable, from sports editor to executive editor to photo editor to sports writer to, assistant managing editor. And I was always at newspapers or online publications. And then job salary was cut in half, couldn't find a job, reached out to 5,000 people. While I was
5,000
working full time, that's what. So you either can do that or you can't. So 5,000 people to get first 5 clients while I was working full time at half the salary. So that was over 6 weeks, and then after I incorporated, and then I got 5th client, resigned the next day, and then Robert Feeder, he's top media columnist in the Midwest, did a story. I started my own firm. So that was February 10th, 2017. I incorporated April 16th, 2017. And that Robert Feeder article came out June 5th, 2017. So that's what it takes just to get a company started. And, most people can't do that. But if you can do that, then this type of world is available to you.
Well, and I love that, 5,000 to get your first 5. I just want everyone to understand that is 999 no's, right? I'm a baseball guy, 70 no's out of 100 hurt my feelings, right? But 300's okay. I can handle 300. This is hitting 1%, man. I'm not even, I'm sorry.
0.1%.
0.1%. Thank you. So it's a matter of perseverance. And then these startup worlds, people go, oh, and I think this is one of the big disservices, Justin. I see a lot of folks who are like, oh, hey, you don't want to work for the man? You should start your own business. Get yourself a website. You'll make millions. You'll be the next Google. I'm like, man, what are you selling these kids? That's crazy. There is so much hard work. And I always, I'm always reminded of everybody that tells me they think entrepreneurship is what's my man, 4-Hour Work Week, Tim Ferriss, like that's what entrepreneurs, they work 4 hours a week. I'm like, you're crazy, man. Like most of the entrepreneurs I know work hard, man. It is long hours and it is a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, so it certainly is when you start. I work 0 hours a week now because none of this has worked for me.
Yeah.
If I don't like to do it, I'm not good at it. I just don't do it, or I find someone to do it for me. I mean, my newest company, it's just technology for my brain. It's just high price point, invite only connectivity platform. I'm good at talking about it and being front stage and getting interest for people to join. And then I have a business partner. He's in Strategic Coach 10X with me. He's based in San Francisco. I'm here in Chicago, and he does all the backstage stuff. It would be a disaster if I even tried to do that. I'd electrocute myself if I tried to build a platform. But my point is like, I just stay in my zone of genius, my unique ability, what I'm good at and what I like to do. And I just let people who are much better at everything else do it for me.
Well, we talked about that 0.1% mindset, right? The 0.1%. So this is that's one of 1,000 right there. That's 0.1%, right?
It's the same 0.1%. It's just a different 0.1%. It's a different type of person, but the same number.
Yep. Let's talk about, I think, a couple of things that you talked about last time, just a kind of a quick review, right? No excuses, the abundant visionary ideation kind of person, right? We talked about the 4 things that probably that everyone who actually reaches stage has almost all gone through. Yes. Bankruptcy, depression, anxiety, or something traumatic. Yep. I thought that was amazing. The cream does rise to the top. You got that one, I think, from your father. Is that right?
Correct.
And then what you learn from it, like how do we take away the lesson in all these things that we do? Like that's probably the one thing that changes things for hyper learners. Like I think athletes are hyper learners. You have to be very adaptability.
100%.
Adaptability has to be very high, but the ability to sponge the lesson from both the good and the bad, right, is really important. And I see a lot of.
I've got a good one for that if you want to hear it. So this isn't funny. This is not funny, and I should have laughed. So I'm not a business owner. I'm an entrepreneur. I don't care about revenue. I don't care about office space. I don't care about employee count. That's totally meaningless to me. It's totally meaningless. I do care about connecting people at the highest level and sharing their stories with the world. And so my wife and I care even more about spending time with my family. So my wife and I went to lunch yesterday because we always go to lunch because I spend a lot of time with my family and I work 0 hours a week because none of this is work to me. So we're on the North Shore of Chicago. North Shore, pretty somewhat a fluid area. So we're in the parking lot. I was a journalist for 20 years, like we talked about. And so I've done a lot of stories and edited a lot of stories and seen a lot of stories about gunshot victims. And, so I was looking behind me and there's a guy lying in the parking lot and blood all over. And there was somebody with him. And I've seen a lot of gunshots. And I screamed out, "Hey, have you been shot?" Which people in the North Shore of Chicago, you don't yell that out, but that's been my whole life has been writing, story. So he said, "Yeah, I've been shot." And I said, "Hey, we need to call 911, right?" And just the guy who was with him said, "Yeah, call 911." And then that guy proceeded to get in the car and leave the scene, which was very interesting to me. That was interesting. But he left not driving fast. Which also surprised me. You would think he would try to get away fast. But police arrested him shortly after that. And so the guy who was shot, desperately crying for help, and my wife's a pediatrician, and she called 911, and there were some other folks there that saved his life because he would have bled out because I spent my whole life doing these stories, and I know how that is. And I think he's okay. He was conscious when he got in the ambulance. I just see what actually matters in life. I hear these people complaining about, revenue and employee count and all this. It's just totally meaningless to me. And yesterday was it was a good reinforcement about what actually matters. And I was telling the victim, he's just a kid. He's 19 years old. He's just a kid. And I was just telling him as he got in the ambulance, "I really hope you're okay. I don't know his background or I just hope he's okay." And the reason why I'm so passionate about this stuff and actually take action and do something about it is because the people I partner with will actually do something. They will actually change the world, not the very rare percentage, the 0.1% will actually make the investment and do something about it. They'll talk about it, but they'll actually take action. And action, if you don't do anything, if you talk and don't do anything about it, pointless to me. Action is all that matters. And so just yesterday, just reinforced that.
That's good, man. And yeah, like you said, have you been shot on the North Shore? They are not used to hearing that in that neighborhood, right? But
it made perfect sense to me. I knew. Chris Voss wrote the foreword for my first book. So Chris, he wrote Never Split the Difference. He's, top FBI terrorist negotiator. That's his background. And he always talks about, and I always say this wrong, but in, times of trouble or conflict, you rise to your highest level of preparedness.
Yep.
So I was very prepared for that situation because I've been a journalist for 20 years and I've seen those stories and those videos and edited them and talked to so many people that have gotten shot or friends that have gotten shot. I immediately knew those people around me were like, wait, you just said, did you get shot? But me, it made perfect sense. It was the other interesting thing that I saw. So my wife, she's a doctor, she's a pediatrician, and she wanted to help because you rise to your highest level of preparedness. Yeah. And I refused to let her help other than calling 911. And why? Because you rise to your highest level of preparedness. And in many cases, reading those stories, the person with the gun comes back to finish the job. And I was not going to let my wife get in the middle of it. Oh, well, yeah, you rise to your highest level of preparedness. So sometimes they come back, and sometimes the person who got shot has the gun. And people who have nothing to lose sometimes have nothing to lose. And I'm not letting my wife, I wasn't going to let my wife get involved with that. So usually she's my protector. She's a pediatrician, so she's usually my protector. But in this case, I was actually her protector.
Interesting.
And it was a very interesting thing.
You think the guy standing over him in the beginning was the shooter?
Well, the police reports say he was shot in the car. But I don't know. I mean, that, and the thing is that the person who left, we asked him if we should call 911. He said yes. And, he's a kid too. He's just 19 years old.
Just kids, yeah.
And they're just kids. I mean, they're just kids. It's a horrible situation. Mm-hmm. And again, the people I partner with are the ones that change the world. They create one of my partners is the Schuler Education Foundation. So Jack Schuler, he's the former CEO of Abbott. He's just joined Forbes' billionaire list. And then his latest initiative, this is his latest one. He's investing $500 million, $500 million, because he's giving all his money away to help underserved kids in the Chicago area and in Milwaukee to go to schools like Harvard, Yale, for free. So he's done that for 20 years. So I can't, that's the only type of person I want to talk to because they're the only ones that are going to actually do something. So there's not another situation like that. I can't help these kids, but
I think there's something in the SEALs. The SEALs talk about our training has to be at the utmost level because you can only work and so the lowest level that we're trained at will show up in conflict, right? And so if we're only trained at that level, right, that's going to be an issue. So that's why they're always pushing and they're concerned about putting anyone out there that's not fully ever trained because it'll hold the whole group back because they have to all be there. And we can't go lower to that condition. Have you heard that before?
Well, I wanted to make sure I got the Chris Voss quote right. Is you fall to your highest level of preparation, and it dovetails what you're saying. My wife was not happy with me yesterday for not letting her help, but today she realizes why I was like that because she wasn't prepared. She's not, that's not her. She's a pediatrician, and it's very admirable. But I've seen the other side of that many times.
Well, and this is very interesting too, because you're a journalist, she's been in, obviously high level medical work in preparation for being a pediatrician. She had to do all sorts of different things in that, right? 100%. Cadaver labs, everything else. But yet you probably have more experience with gun wounds than she does, right? This is not standard for the pediatrician office.
I don't think she's ever seen a gun.
So there's a little bit of taking back on that too.
Well, again, everything you talked about, everything's a lesson. This is how I learned things.
Yeah, that's right.
And again, my dad died when I was 13. My youngest brother died of a drug overdose when he was 29. I think he'd be 41 now. That's what I mean. I'm not a business owner. I don't care. All this other stuff it's just totally meaningless to me. I understand what actually matters in life. For me, all that really matters to me is my family and then growing network on a global level. All this other stuff takes care of itself, but I just see it. I see people winning the wrong game. I'm just not that person.
Let's talk about one of the things that you talked a lot about last time was activate, maximize, and achieve. So
those are my top 3 strength finders, by the way, the Gallup Clifton strength finders. Yeah.
Yep. So those are your big 3. How do you apply that? Let's take this to BrEpic, right? You've got a new platform rolling, right? Is it already rolled out?
It literally just launched this week, and then Private Wealth Magazine. So this is what we're talking about, the 0.1%. So they have about 2,000 subscribers and average revenue is 8 figures. Which I don't care about, but most people do because 2,000 is a small number, but not, that's a good small number. So they just did a huge story on how big the company is going to be. So I'm very thankful for that because I know how this world works. I know I know what that does. So that's the key that will open up endless doors, like my first book has, and then the second one that I'll do. But no, I mean, that's my point, is you actually do something about it. So I'm annoyed by all these platforms that let everyone in because people at the highest level don't have any time. They just want the result. They just want the activation. So all the new company is it's just a platform for that. It's just technology for that.
Let's talk about that scarcity mentality. I think that's a scarcity mentality, right? Because if we open up everything, there's no scarcity in that, right? And not everyone can kind of make it to the top. Like, I mean, listen, everyone comes to me and says, oh, you don't want to be a major leaguer. Well, guess what? Like, I appreciate that. I honor it. But like, I'm telling you, it is going to not be easy. And it's funny because I had Scott Spezio on my show. Scott's a good friend of mine. Yeah. And Scott is a longtime player, right? And he's Mr. Clutch. He's he's one of the best players in the playoffs of all time, and held the RBI record in major leagues for a number of years in postseason. And that was just broken a couple of years ago. And so, and his comment was, it's easy to get to the majors. It's hard to stay. I said, hey man, first of all, let me get a TO over. He goes, it's not easy to get to the majors. All right. Like
that's a really interesting take.
Yeah.
That's an interesting take.
But now his point of staying at the top, like you reach this top level, like there are thousands and thousands waiting in the wings who would love a job for 10, 12 million. And they're hungry. At least some of them are hungry for it. And, at the top of the mountain, everyone wants to knock you off. And I spent some time in my life young, when I was like 16 to 18, we were the number one baseball team in the state of Michigan in high school. And listen, like we knew exactly what to expect every game. It was like, we're going up against the number one team. We're bringing our best. We're going to see the best pitcher. We're going to see the best of they got. They're going to come and test themselves against the best. And they're going to challenge that. And I think that's where he's at. Like, you're at the major leagues. You're going to be tested every single moment, because the moment you can't make it and rise to the challenge of that test, they don't need you anymore.
Well, I think it's a fair point in a different vertical. Major leagues, there's a finite number of jobs. There's a number of teams with a number of. Yeah. Okay. So in my world, there's no limit to the people that can be like what I'm doing. There's no limit to that if they have the right mindset, and they'll do whatever it takes, and then they can overcome the 4 things that we talked about. Most people can't do that. I mean, they just use them as excuses their whole life. But the beauty being in this world is once again, I partner with a 0.1%. There are 8 billion people. So, most people don't think 0.1% is a small number. No, 0.1% of 8 billion is 8 million. 8 million is a lot of people.
Yeah.
I mean, new company is just connecting those people. That's all it is. And then those people create magic together.
Yeah. You and I are teachers, instructions, educators on getting to that top level, right? Getting to that place. Mm-hmm. Do you foresee a position where one day there's going to be 0.2? Because you're saying hey, other people can do it.
As long as there's 0.1, it doesn't matter, because the population is going to keep going up. So as long as the 0.1's there. And now what I will say is that the more people like me that are out there, the more amazing things will happen, because people like me are the only ones that are going to actually build the thing. And people like me are the ones that build the things that change the lives for everyone else or employ everyone else.
Yeah.
And what happens is when you create abundance, there's more abundance created. That's my point. You just connect all these people, and then they create more. They just create more of that. They create more of that. So
let's go back to historically about people who have done that in our country, right? United States of America.
Our country was founded by those people.
That's right.
Literally, our country was founded by entrepreneurs. That's right. Literally what all of our founding well, I don't know about all, but most of them were entrepreneurs. That's why America is the greatest country on earth. It's just an entrepreneurial experiment. That's all America is.
It's funny. I don't know if country loved when the entrepreneur was running it, but I'm going to leave that one off the table. But let's talk about a Henry Ford or a DeVos family with Amway, and the impact of what they created and changed something into the market. Right. And we'll go with Ford first, who sees as hey, there's 3 cars made a day. It's $15,000 a car in 1900. I mean, who could afford one except the ultimate elite? There's going to be no infrastructure if we can't get automobiles on the road and actually change things. So entrepreneur, right? Winners find a way. He figures out hey, I could produce 250 cars a day in this assembly line production. Right. And so he figures out, and I love his stance, right? Hey, you can have any color you want as long as it's black. Like, and he's, this is what I'm capable of, and this is what I'm not willing to do. And he kind of draws 100%. A line in the sand, right? But now we are we're over 100 years removed from that, right? But yet the Ford Motor Company and the impact of the Ford abundance that's come along the way, how much impact has that had? I mean, I'm a Michigan guy, man. So you don't go anywhere without seeing Ford on a lot of things. From this one person's abundance mentality of how I can create value, employ a ton of people, right? And create a contribution to this world that otherwise we all been horse and carriage, and, we still be talking about the, the postal service, right? On the, Pony Express.
Right. So again, people like that, no excuses, only investment. And again, I simplify everything. So the formula for a successful global company is it's very simple. As you see a problem, create solution, problem solve, successful global company. So, hey, not enough cars, can't be done fast enough, too expensive, create solution, solve it, successful global company. So that's it. I mean, that's all people I talk to, they're annoyed by something, created a solution, solved it. Now they just want to be in more news, more media, usually at a global level. So my brain here is blah, 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 simplify intro to media. And then new company is just connect to this person. So it just solves the problem. I mean, again, and my black car line in the sand is I only partner with people like that because they're the ones that actually do anything. So that's how I change the world.
And I don't know if you've thought about this, but have you considered?
I'm sure I have.
Yeah, you think so? Okay. Have you considered?
Whatever the question is, I've thought about it. I'm sure.
Okay, good. I love this. All right, well, I'm gonna put you on the spot, JB. I'm coming at you now. You name me then. I think I got you, by the way. You name me the top 5 things that need resolution right now. If I'm an entrepreneur and I'm going to do something JB,
number one, I hear the same problem. We need to find this person. My new company is a who finder. Most of my days talking to the top entrepreneurs on the planet. And again, I'm in Strategic Coach 10X and Abundance 360. I hear the same thing in these conversations. I need to meet this person.
Yes.
When you have the right network, all this other stuff takes care of itself. Yep. That's the right network solves all those 5 problems. That's the whole point. That's what I'm just solving that problem.
That's what BrEpic is. What's the new platform called? BrEpic what?
BrEpic Network. Yeah. So I'm a simplifier. So black car PR, black car network. It's the same thing.
What is the BrEpic? What does it stand for? How'd you come up with that name?
Right. So Henry Ford named the car after himself. That's actually a pretty good idea. Yeah. So I'm almost dead last in ideation, but if I have a good one, I know it's a good one. On Strengthsfinders, I'm 32 out of 34 in ideation. So I like saying the word epic, and then BR are the first 2 letters of my last name. So my wife and I went up to the American Club, which is I think it's a 5-star Diamond Lodge in Kohler. She surprised me for my 40th birthday.
Good spot.
In 2017. Oh, it's a great place. Yeah, great place. Great place to go after your job salary's cut in half and you can't find a job.
Yeah, because you can't eat for under $150, right? Kohler, okay. Hey, listen, shout out to Kohler. It's unbelievable, but listen, this is you're gonna spend some ducats on that weekend. Just so get ahead.
It was a great celebration. It reminded me what matters. But so anyway, on the way up, I'm like, I'll just I'll start my own business, call it BrEpic. And it just popped in my head. And so now there's BrEpic, communications, there's BrEpic baseball teams, BrEpic Network, Epic Business Book. Newest book next year will be called Epic Life. We'll create a BrEpic Foundation to help younger entrepreneurs in the next 10 years. So it's kind of fun. It's BrEpic Scholarship Fund. Nice. It's funny, but that's what you do. You just do it. I don't understand.
Wait. Hey, as long as we're on it, what's the BrEpic baseball team? Tell me about that.
Well, I sponsor youth baseball teams. So awesome. My company does. Yeah.
That's and I love that. As a kid growing up, that was the old school, right? The local businesses got involved, and I remember having a couple really successful youth programs that I was involved in. As an adult, I looked back and thought, how much value was that to that team? That we're in the sports page, leading the sports page all the time. Russell Plumbing wins another championship. Are they getting a bunch of business off this? Because this is a great use.
It's funny because I think it's hilarious that my company sponsors a youth baseball team because nobody, usually it's like a grocery store or a car dealership. Nobody has any idea what it is. But I'm not, my company isn't for the 99.9% of, residents that live here. It's just, but it is kind of funny. It is, it's kind of funny to do that.
All right, let's come back to, let's move into the elite, right? So first of all, hey, listeners out there, they'd like to be a part of the BrEpic Network. right? Like how do they do it?
Well, it's invite only. So what I've learned is I don't sell anything. I'm just the buyer. Companies and folks hire my firm, pay my firm, but I'm just the buyer, the people I want to hang out with. There is a website, BrEpic Network.com, BrEpic So there's a way to like fill out something. But the beauty is that my partner does all the backstage stuff, and we have a lot of check writers. And Dan Sullivan, strategic coach, talks about check writers. So we have a lot of check writers who are ready. They're starting to write their checks to join it. And then those people are ambassadors, and then they'll invite their friends to join, because people like that hang out with people like that. And then here's what, my 9-year-old son, this is what we talk about. I was picking him up from soccer the other day. He's like, "Oh, Dad, your new company, it's a really good idea, because the friends who are in it, they're just going to invite their friends to join." I'm like, "Oh, yeah. Okay." So you can learn from a 9-year-old.
Yeah.
And that's the whole premise.
And the whole thing is like that has always been marketing 101, like birds of a feather flock together. Like if you are looking for a certain client, guess what? Like as soon as you find them, take a look around, because there's 10 other right with them, right? Like you better find them. And once you get it, you better climb deep into that area, because
and they're hard to find at first. I mean,
that's right.
They're hard to find at first because they're rare. But once you find them, and then you become one of them, because you don't make an excuse, you make the investment. I mean, that's why I make big investments to be in these rooms, because it leads out. It's the people who aren't in the room. That's the key. People are there, but it's the ones who aren't, because they make an excuse.
It's good. Let's talk about, I want to be cognizant of your time. We only got a few more minutes left. I'd love to talk about that. You had a great post on the top coaches, their age of when they really peaked, and it wasn't 41, right? And so when we talk about that, right, I don't know what the average age of the folks, but like it's legit. The multiple championships, and I think about like the longtime basketball coach, and I think what's his book, 11 Rings, or
talking about John Wood?
No, the Bulls coach.
Oh,
Phil Jackson. I think his book is, maybe it's 12 rings. I don't know, man. The guy's got a ton of rings. So, but yeah, that, it just doesn't happen at this young age, right? It's these performers are peaking sometimes very late. So talk to me a little bit about why you posted that.
Well, my brain simplifies all this complexity into patterns. So I see the same thing, and then I just simplify it. So I'll just say a couple of them. The manager who just won the World Series is Brian Snicker. He's 66. He's the youngest person on this list, by the way. Coach K, he's the best. He's the youngest, yeah. So Coach K is the best men's basketball coach. College, he's 74. Best women's coach is Gino Auriemma. He's 67. Greg Popovich is 72. Nick Saban's 70. Bill Belichick, 69. Dan Sullivan, co-founder, strategic coach, he's 77. Here's another interesting thing that I think. Tom Brady just won Sportsman of the Year for Sports Illustrated, and he's 44. I'm also 44.
Okay.
And so Tom, he's the, you can argue he's the best.
He's the GOAT.
Even now he's the MVP. And so he's 44. So, and he just has all this wisdom. And the article was really good that Sports Illustrated did about him. And he's like, they're like, "What keeps you young?" And he's like, "Well, the guys in the locker room make me feel like I'm 25. Because they all have the same mindset. And that's why I'm in all these rooms with these people, because their mindsets are much younger than their age, even though they're most of these people are much older than me that I talk to. I'm 44, but their mindsets are, we're both have young, optimistic abundance mindset.
That's right. I love Brady, and we talk a lot about him, right? We're talking about leadership all the time. So Brady's name comes up. We're talking about the grit formula, guys starting out with 6 talent, 10 effort, 600 guy, and then between rep after rep, intentional reps each and every time, all of a sudden a 6 becomes a 7, and then another couple of years a 7 becomes an 8, then an 8 becomes a 9. And listen, you can't stop this guy now, because the effort is always an intentional, and it's always there. And then you just
incremental gains, exponential growth, but you put the incremental gains in.
That's it. Okay, elite performers, finish me up. What's it going to take? People want to be in the 0.1%, be a part of the BrEpic Network. Maybe they may not make that. But let's just talk about the elite performers. What do you think it absolutely requires?
Well, I'm simplifying the pattern. So 2 things. Again, I was a journalist for 20 years, and most of my day now is talking to the top entrepreneurs on the planet. So there's only 2 commonalities with those people. 1, they have the right mindset, the same mindset. And 2, they had at least one person growing up that cared about them. That's the only 2 commonalities that I've seen.
Let me tell you what I see, and I want to hear your opinion on it. One of the things I see a lot of great performers. I see a lot of people who lead in productivity, productivity. The separators, and I'll just say the 1%, the separators have a self-discipline that no one else seems to grasp. They don't have that extra edge. And that may be the mindset, right? That their mindset is to say, I'll do whatever I have to do. But would you say that that would fall under that umbrella of that mindset then?
Well, it's what you're doing when people aren't looking. That's what I always laugh. People are like, oh, you're so successful. I'm like, well, you didn't see me at 3 a.m. when I had 0 clients and 0 revenue after my job salary was cut in half. So
that's right.
So most people aren't willing to do that. But everyone I talk to now did way more than that.
It's awesome. Well, Justin, I want to get you the next thing. I'm so thankful you could join us today on the Winners Find a Way show. Tune in every Friday, 12:30 Eastern, 9:30 a.m. Pacific. Thankful for Justin Breen coming in on a reprise, man, on the Winners Find a Way show, and thrilled to have you again. Looking forward to hearing more on the BrEpic Network. You're going to watch it. Look for his article out in Private Wealth Magazine, his new book coming out on his next second epic edition. So look for it, and you can find BrEpic online everywhere. So, and check out his Colby. And listen, if you have your
Colby, got to take the Colby, man.
I know, I got to take the Colby. I have no
I'm 8671.
I see it on you got it on your number. Everyone sees your Colby right there. And so I'm going to tell them, like, hey, listen, you want to compare your Colby number with Justin Breen, find out, like, get your Colby and get it done, because JB will be happy to compare notes. All right. So everybody out there, thank you again. We'll see you next time on the show. Always a pleasure. Justin Breen.
Need to hydrate but tired of plain old water? You need Rebellious Infusions. No sugar, no calories, loaded with antioxidants to boost your immune system. And L-theanine for brain health. 10 organic flavors and convenient liquid packets. Just add 16 ounces and you are on your way. Rethink your drink at drinkrebellious.com. For 10% off of your next purchase, use the code 99999. Thank you for listening to the Winners Find a Way show and podcast. Trent, together with the leaders who shared their learning and experiences through this show, are grateful for allowing them to help and support you on your journey to becoming your best. Write a review, rate us 5 stars, and share this episode to your network.